Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am now joined by the co-director of strategic communication of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Danladi Bako. Thank you very much for joining us, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Jumoke. How are you?
I'm very good,
how was
thank
your
you.
day?
I am very good. All right, you were for many years Nigeria's most famous TV host. How has your transition been, from broadcast journalism to politics?
Well, it was going to be a natural transition because I had always been there. I was doing my work, but for some reason or the other, I found out that politics called and attracted me. Right from university days, I was part of the mobilization for student activism in ABU. We were part of those that did demonstration to get Nigerian government to support the ANC against the apartheid regime of South Africa in 1975. And in 1976, one of the students of University of Ibadan, Kunle Adepeju, was killed. And I was part of the demonstration to make sure that justice was reached and the family saw justice. 1978, I was part of the demonstration that made sure we protested the increase in fees and everything. It was Ali must go, 1978. By 1979, I was part of the structure of the youth councils that allowed Shehu Kengiwa and Shehu Shagari to become governor and president, governor of Sokoto and president of Nigeria. I was 22, 23. So I've been around. I was there in MKO's political days, everybody around MKO and Hope 93, from Jonathan Zwingina to Kola, to everybody, including everybody, Dr. Ogumbi, everybody that was around MKO knew how we ran around. And up till even the candidate of the APC was around at that time, and we all had different roles to play in getting the SDP to win the elections, although it was annulled later. 2006, I was also the chairman media and publicity for the PDP presidential campaign of Umaru Musa Yar'Adua and Jonathan. Malam Umaru was 1 year my senior in ABU, and we belonged to the same political leaning. He graduated 77, I graduated 78. And when he became the candidate, I agreed to be part of the structure to help him run the media and publicity in the whole North, 2006, 2007. So that's been my story. So it's not by accident. I was also there. It was me that made the announcement in 2014 of the merger of new MPDP and the other parties in Sokoto to become the APC. I was a founding member. I was Commissioner of Information. It was the lot to make that announcement fell on me. So I've been around politics, Jumoke.
Interesting. Now, you covered some elections during your active years as a journalist. How would you describe the Second and Third Republic politics?
It wasn't this kind of monetization that we're seeing now. Of course, quite clearly, people spent money, but behind the scenes, it wasn't as blatant as it is now. Those days, people just voted more for conscience and quality of material and quality of guests and quality of candidates. I also saw violence. In 1991, 92, 93, I was attacked during the June 12th crisis. The windscreen of my car in Lagos on Ikorodu Road was broken, and some thugs attacked me in my house in 25 Brown Road, Ikoyi. So things like that. So it's been normal. We expect it because once upon a time, we used to know that there was something called Operation Wetie in the western region of Nigeria. And in some parts of the other parts of the country, there was that kind of violence. But eventually, when you have 230,000 polling booths around the country, 1 or 2 polling booths will be subjected to that kind of thugs just come And in some cases, they just go back to government house. There's a form called Form EC8A given to you by INEC, the result sheets. And a governor just sits back and allocates the votes the way he wants. I saw it firsthand. So for me, President Buhari's attempt to sanitize the system by signing into law the new Electoral Act is a very major plus and is a game changer and is a major credit to the Buhari administration.
All right, still taking you back memory lane, thereby asking, could the 1983 coup have been averted?
The 1983 coup?
Yes, could it have been averted?
That's difficult to say because the corruption that Shagari was accused of in 1983, you'll be amazed that Umaru Diko was claimed to have just about 20 million naira in his account. One of the reasons he was the Minister of Transport. And Umaru Diko, that was said to have 20 million, a councillor today in Nigeria can bring out that 20 million. So at that time, the major reasons were corruption, etc., etc. And that's one of the reasons, those were some of the reasons why Shagari was overthrown. But here we are today. I'm not sure that the situation has improved much more, but I also think it truncated the learning process of our democratization. If we had been allowed to continue and make our own mistakes and correct them and create all the platforms and institutions that would check corruption, which eventually took place in 1999 through EFCC and ICPC, Code of Conduct Bureau, if we had taken that step as far back as 1983, we would have developed our political process and our democratization process and our electioneering process a lot better than what we did now. Sometimes it's difficult to either justify why they had a coup or why they didn't have a coup. But I think sometimes when coups get accepted by the people, is because that government of that day had seen certain things. Remember, there was contestation over 12 to 3rd. There was contestation over whether UPN and Awolowo had met enough criteria. I mean, there were all sorts of contestations. And some people just felt that Obasanjo gave the presidency to Shagari. So all of those kinds of things from 79, by the time the second tenure came, 1983, Omoboriowo, MPN, all of those things that happened, especially with the electoral results and the corruption that took place. The military just found it justifiable that they needed to take over to create some sanity. But I think it was a learning process. All of us learned now to value our democracy. Now we have to learn to understand that we have to work hard to maintain this democratic process and keep it alive so that we don't suffer what other countries in the West African sub-region are suffering today.
All right, talking about now, democracy is, evolving in our country. We've had more than 20 uninterrupted years of democracy. What do we need to do to permanently keep the military in their barracks?
Sorry, I didn't get that. Please repeat your question.
Democracy is evolving in our country, and of course we've had more than 20 uninterrupted years of democracy. What do we need to do to permanently keep the military in their barracks? Can you hear me, Doctor? All right. Guess we have some connectivity issue there. If you can hear me, please kindly say something. All right. We need to take a short break and we will be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Politics Tonight. We apologize for those glitches. And I still have with me the co-director of Strategic Communication of the All Progressives Congress APC Presidential Campaign Council, Malam Danladi Bako. Welcome back. I was speaking about democracy evolving in our country, and I also said that we have had more than 20 uninterrupted years of democracy. For you, what do you think we need to do to permanently keep the military in their barracks?
I think that to a large extent, what I said about the Electoral Act and choosing the right leaders is a major plank. We need to reinforce that. We also need better advocacy. We need more political education. We need to now also make sure that the political parties are well structured and insist there must be internal democracy. A lot of all the ups and downs and numerous close to 1,000 court cases are because there are no serious consequences for lack of internal political democracy in the parties. And so people do things they want to, people impose candidates, people lord it over, the godfatherism, the use of money, all sorts of things make the process vulnerable and subject to ridicule. So I think we need to reform the process by ensuring that proper institutional frameworks are put in place to ensure that the political parties decide through proper process who represents them. The political parties must have a structure. They must also follow that structure and their constitution to the letter and reduce the number of court cases that we have. Reduce the number of lingering cases, that a case takes so long, sometimes pre-election matters to Supreme Court. It just adds a lot of, angst and, tension in the system. So I think we all need to be politically mature. And, Jumoke, people like you who are sitting at home and just doing armchair critic, we must get out and join politics, because when you don't join, you leave room for those who are less qualified and not exactly, of high standard to fill that vacuum, because nature abhors the vacuum. So when we are thinking now that all sorts of characters have become governorship candidates, so you ask yourself, what was I doing going to school? What was I doing reading up to master's degree? And the person that is representing my party is just one small guy in one local government somewhere. That ultimately affects the sense of governance. It affects what we do with governance, our respect for rule of law, how we prepare our budgets, how we execute our budgets, how we monitor our executive members as governors and commissioners. How we do all those things is reflected in the quality of education, the quality of background, the quality of society, and the quality of the political parties.
All right. In one of the stories that made headlines today, the Chief of Defense Staff says the military will remain apolitical despite pressure. Does it mean the political class is putting some pressure on the military to come back to power, even though the military has denied this? Are you there, Malam?
Yes, I am. You know that politicians will always use all sorts of means to acquire power. They believe that do everything you can, acquire the power, will sort out the case when it gets to court. And you have seen so many cases where brute, raw energy. Thank God now people cannot snatch ballot boxes anymore, because the ballot boxes would be useless after the counting of votes. You just send the votes through the electronic system to the portal, and the portal will display at the INEC headquarters the results. So that will take care of thuggery. But indeed, what normally happens is that politicians will gather the military, intimidate people, make sure that they are either sometimes where their parties are not very strong, they will go and intimidate people not to come out and vote. So you can have a polling booth that has 500 people, and on election day, maybe 120 will show up. Because sometimes fear and tension, which is created by militarization of the environment and all sorts of things, and the fear of thuggery. Now, sometimes you don't know which comes first. Is it the thuggery that invites the military, or the military invites fear without even where the thugs are? So I think people just manipulate the system. Sometimes they use money, sometimes they use the armed forces, sometimes they use the police, sometimes they buy the agents. You know, they buy the agents of all political parties. I'll give you a simple example. On election day, 2023, February, it's possible you will go to a polling booth, you will find ADC, you will find AA, AAC, PDP, APC, and probably Labour Party. Don't be surprised that 6 out of those agents that are there, maybe one party that is dominant will pay off those agents. Call them and say, hey, you AAC candidate, agent, how much did they give you to do this work today? And you say, oh, my allowance for today is 2,000 naira. Then they will tell you, the party that wants to rig that booth will give that agent that was given 2,000 by his party, they will give them 5,000 and tell them to take a walk. So you can have 6 agents at a polling booth, and the dominant party there, or one of the parties, can pay all those that were given 2,000 for allowance for that day, pay them 10,000, ask them to go away. Then they can stuff the ballot box. I saw that live. I'm not talking about story. I saw it. I covered elections like that. So these kind of things. Sometimes you pay, the politicians pay the police to take a walk as well. Sometimes they ask them, how much was your allowance today? And after that, they just make sure that they increase their allowance by 2, and they shut their eyes to whatever is happening. Now, we need to have more discipline. We need to have national reorientation. We need to have more advocacy. We need to culture ourselves so that these things are reduced to the maximum. So it's not just uploading the results that matter. Preventing all these kind of maladies and malfeasance of election voting and rigging.
All right, so having said that, what sanctions do you think can be put in place to curb these deep-rooted menace?
I think there is a major attempt to try to get an election offenses tribunal. That election offenses tribunal bill must be followed to the letter, signed into law, and ensure that people are sent to jail for these kind of offenses. Luckily, we're seeing that there's some action in the past 6 months. A former Deputy Senate President houses, about 40 houses has been collected and forfeited to government. Lots of monies have been forfeited in the last 6 months, lots of convictions. So this new election offenses tribunal or panel or commission must swing into action and send people to jail for doing the wrong thing, including the law enforcement agents that connive with them. We've seen this over and over again. We know that there are states where on election day, the police and the military are used in all sorts of ways, So I do believe that there must be consequences for wrongdoing, especially with the rigging of elections. It has to stop.
All right, then. You would agree with me that since the electionary campaign kicked off officially, there has been a lot of intemperate language being used by political players and even journalists. Why is there so much bad blood during this political season?
Jumoke, sometimes the prize money for being president of Nigeria is so big, so big, and the powers that a president has is so big that it's so attractive that people will go to any length, including damaging each other's character, just to make sure that they get their candidates to win, to convince the minds of the voters that their candidate is superior. Unfortunately, sometimes it backfires because negative language also has negative effect on voting behavior. So I strongly believe that as we move on, we're beginning to see the peak of it. As we move on, it's going to drop because people have realized that they're beginning to realize that there is no point in that kind of attack, verbal attacks on people. And desperation has set in, especially for those who have spent so much money in the last 3-4 years, building up to this day. And they can see that for whatever they've done, they're losing out in the race. So their language becomes more vicious and vitriolic and to a large extent volatile. And, they lose their cool in the process. A little later, much later, most of the time, they come back to regret what they said and try to pull it back. But that time, the damage is done. And when the people on the streets are fighting for them, you need to go to, a playground somewhere or somewhere where people are meeting and something, and they fight over candidates, whether they are obedient or they are batified. The way they fight, the candidates that they are representing don't fight that way. Only recently, you saw that the presidential candidate of PDP and the presidential candidate of APC met at Abuja airport on 2 occasions within 2 weeks, and they embraced each other. And they've been business partners for a long time. The candidate of the MNPP was a governor when the candidate of APC was a governor. So they know each other. So I can only advise the populace and the public not to fight over any politician. Don't abuse anybody because of any politician, because by the time they settle their quarrel, you won't be there.
Absolutely. All right.
Besides, also, I strongly think that in the last few months, the law enforcement agents, the NBC, the regulatory body for broadcasting, has called the attention of the media houses to ensure that they do not allow such intemperate language to continue. And I think they're beginning to get very conscious of it now, and it's reducing gradually. I think that gradually, 1 or 2 of the opposition ones have really tapered down. I can say that I notice the slowdown in the foul language on AIT. Arise, the Lagos crew in Arise are still guilty of intemperate language and very poor choice of words. On TVC, I do not see people attack the candidates of other parties properly. But sometimes also, when you allow yourself to carry such messages from opposing parties using foul language, you are liable as a broadcast station. You are liable, it's you. But I think the impact is more felt on the social media, and the social media is where we need to really work on to check the way people use words, bad language, and foul language on the social media, because some of them are so nasty and totally unforgiving.
All right.
And I think we should always remember that there will be Nigeria after February 2023. There will be, look, you know so many families who one is in one party, the other one is in another party. I know husband and wife who are in different parties. And to a large extent, after elections, they come back and settle. So why are you quarreling when even the people you're quarreling over don't even know you exist? So it's a major, we have to re-examine ourselves as human beings and try to see. But again, Jumoke, we need the National Orientation Agency to wake up and do the needful. They have to restructure. I can't understand that the Minister of Information is allowing the National Orientation Agency to be asleep on issues like this. So I think we need proper national reorientation. We need advocacy. We need proper education. Indeed, along with history in secondary schools and primary schools, we need civic education. Civic education to tell you about courtesy, decency, use of etiquette in our primary schools so that our children grow up not to be the kind of things we hear on the internet or we see on the internet.
All right, now let's get to politics now. Many say the presidential election next year will be the most keenly contested in recent memory. Do you agree with that narrative? Are you there, Malam? All right, I said many say the next year's presidential election will be the most keenly contested in recent memory. Do you agree with that narrative?
You were talking about the campaigns?
I'm talking about the presidential election next year. Many say it will be the most keenly contested. Do you agree with that narrative? Are you there, Malam Bako? All right, once again, I'm talking about next year's presidential election, and many say that this will be the most keenly contested election in memory. Do you agree with that?
The three major languages producing candidates. We have a Yoruba candidate from the southwest. We have a northern candidate from the north. We have a Labour Party candidate from the southeast. And so it's like we have a tripod, which has always been one of the challenges of the Nigerian system, where people vote on tribal lines. So here we are. We have three major, although in the north we still have the NNPP in Kano. But the truth of the matter remains that people are, first of all, likely to be subjected to pressure from their tribal groups to vote for those candidates. Now, you'll find some percentage will not follow that peer group pressure. Some of them will vote the way they think rather than whether the party is dominated by the people of their tribe. So a lot of all that will happen based on tribe, religion, and to a large extent, who works hard enough to convince the people. You can see, Jumoke, that about 18 political parties, about 12 of them have gone silent. I don't know when I last saw a campaign of Zenith Labour Party or ADC. I have not attended a rally of any of the other ones, AAC, maybe Shore, yes, maybe, and one or two others. But where are the political parties that got registered? And at the time, INEC deregistered quite a lot of them. There was a lot of noise. Oh, why are you deregistering us? Democracy and all that stuff. It's undemocratic to deregister parties. And here we are. They have registration and they're not campaigning. So it will seem as if so many of the political parties are just wearing the toga of a status symbol to be part of a political a process which they do not necessarily contribute anything. So here we are. We're going to have a Southwest-based candidate, although national. We're going to have a Northern candidate, also national. Then a Labour Party candidate from the Southeast, who is also national. Now, how they penetrate the other regions is the main issue. How the APC candidate will succeed in getting the rest of the country from the Northwest to the Southeast to join its campaign and its votes and deliver the votes. That's where the work is. The same applies to the PDP candidate who has to try to come to the Southwest and try to find an inroad and make 25%. You know that the benchmark is 25% of 24 states. So whether they will be able to get 25% votes in 24 states is a major question for some of those parties. I am assuring you that APC will get more than 25% in so many of the states. Indeed, it will get 25% in 36 states and the FCT. No problems with that. I think the PDP might as well. Whether the LP will is a major and big question.
A public affairs analyst said none of the APC governors in northern Nigeria can guarantee votes for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He actually said the governors are not popular. Is that really the case?
No, it's not. It's a total falsehood. I mean, that's the most outrageous comment I've heard in a long while. These are people who have won 2 terms of their elections. Almost all these governors that are in the Northwest are on their 2nd term. Kaduna is on his 2nd term. He won the election twice. Kebbi, he won the election twice. Jigawa won the election twice. Katsina won the election twice. So what were they doing? What magic were they doing to win the elections twice? I don't think that.
So can Asiwaju win your home state, for example?
Whatever reason they have.
Can Asiwaju win your home state, for example?
Yeah, I want to believe that he will win, especially with the support of Mr. President. 2 things are in his favor. The president is extremely popular in the North. Forget about whatever you read on whatever newspapers or whatever public opinion poll. The president is still extremely popular in the North. And the president's opinion matters on elections like this. Consider also that the second item is that the other candidates are not even Northwest. So there's no serious candidate from the Northwest that will bring down the 12 million votes that President Buhari normally delivers to the Northwest. So the support of the president, which he has displayed in Jos, he has displayed during the launching of the manifesto, is key. And whether you like it or not, these 6 governors of the Northwest, as I said, will deliver their states. In the case of Sokoto, I strongly believe that the presidential candidate of the APC will gather enough votes to win. Now, there are 2 issues here as well. Contesting and getting the votes for a governorship candidate is based on so many other factors, including the quality of the 2 candidates at the governorship level. At the presidential level, it's a different ballgame, because at the presidential level, Buhari's impact and Asiwaju's continued impact over the years will assist. I'll tell you why. The other candidates from the other parties, they don't come to Sokoto. They don't pay a visit. You have the fire that gutted huge markets in Sokoto. You have the flood of 2010. You have the time prominent Sokoto people died, Umaru Shinkafi, Dasuki, etc. These people never find their way to Sokoto to come and sympathize with the people, talk less of donating to flood victims. Asiwaju has done that on a few occasions. I know that amongst all the candidates, Asiwaju has visited Sokoto more than all the rest candidates. Maybe Konkoso because Konkoso came on 2-3 occasions. Also, we also have the leader of the APC in Sokoto is called Aliu Wamako. Aliu Wamako was the governor for 8 years. By 1991, Aliu Wamako was permanent secretary in Zamfara State in a place called Zurmi. Aliu Wamako would get up in the evening and enter his car and go and visit as many as 20, 21 villages at night. He would see the Laden, he would see the Hakimi, stop by, say hello to them. He builds, and the next person that I knew was the person that started this tactics was MK Abiola. He would visit as many people as he can. And Wamako continues to stay with the grassroots. And Wamako has his own followership, despite the fact that he's not in charge of the state now, as in state exco or governorship. But he has local following that is enough to guarantee that President Buhari's word will be listened to. I will tell you finally that in 2011, I voted PDP for governorship, and presidency, I voted CPC. CPC, Buhari did not win in 2011, but there is that connection. So the Northwest has no candidate as we speak, Jumoke, no candidate in the presidential race. The candidates are from Northeast, PDP, Southwest, APC, and Southeast, LP, and Kwankwaso, NNPP. But on this occasion, I strongly believe that the combination of Tinubu, Wamako, and President Buhari will deliver the presidential votes in Sokoto to the APC. The people might know, they don't mind. They might pick the governor and say, okay, we give the governorship to this person, we give the presidency to this person.
All right.
Equation balance.
Your presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has been widely criticized for speaking to only foreign media rather than those at home. Does this bother you in any way?
No, it doesn't, because I think it's sour grapes. A lot of all those who make those comments are just a little bit jealous that he took time out to talk to the British Broadcasting Corporation, the BBC, and that interview alone attracted 1.2 million hits. All the 3 series of debates that one other station, TV station, did attracted 723 hits. Now, so they're bound to be jealous. And you have a very marketable material in Asiwaju that when he coughs, it makes news. Whatever he does makes news. So they're envious that TVC has all the attraction. They believe that they need some of the action, so they want him at all costs. And it's the discretion of the candidate to decide who he wants to appear on. He wants to decide what is beneficial to him. There is no constitutional mandate that makes it obligatory or mandatory for him to go and appear on any station to do any debate or any interview. That prerogative is his. Eventually, the election day will decide whether it was a good decision or a bad decision. But that discretion of what to appear on, which station to appear on, how he wants to appear on it, might be his, and it's strictly his. And there's no law that says that if you don't do a debate, you would lose election. The factors that decide elections are beyond debates and interviews. And sometimes, Jumoke, when people talk about, what he's doing on the international circuit, the guy who sits in every village, whether it is in a Mapu Hall or Challenge in Ibadan, or whether it's in Bukuyum in Zamfara State, or whether it's in Sabon-Birni in Sokoto State, those guys don't know about Chatham House. They don't care about debates. What they know is, what has he done? What will he do for us? So at the bottom line, and these people are about 70% of the total population that live in those rural areas. So we just do a lot of ego massage and elite conspiracy to talk every day that, we make a lot of noise that he hasn't. The real people that follow these things on their local languages in all the radio stations and TV stations that are bound in this country are in the rural areas. Some of them have never heard of Chatham House, so they don't care. So I think that as we move along, this is not to say that the APC candidate will not reach out to them. As we move along, their time will come, and there will be an opportunity for them to interview the candidate. I think every reasonable person will try to engage us. And I think I know Asiwaju enough to be a people's person. He's very open. He's a friend to everybody. He will try to be a father to all. So for all those that are belly aching now, I'm sure he'll give them space to do interviews. I believe that.
All right. We're waiting then. But then let's quickly talk about INEC's preparation for the election. How would you rate it?
I think INEC has been wonderful so far. They've been up to date. They have been alert. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu has proven that his appointment was not a fluke. I think he has tried as much as possible to stay focused. He doesn't get distracted by other things. And before you know it, We were all talking, oh, increase the date of registration of INEC voters, registered voters. Today, by Monday, they will be giving you your PVCs, all those that did their registration this year. So I think they're on top of it. We owe them a duty to do a lot of political education and advocacy so that voter turnout can improve. For now, voter turnout is about 35, 36% of registered voters. We need to begin to, along with INEC, get registered voters and voting pattern to increase to about 60 to 70% of registered voters. Because for now, the figures are low. When you have 92 million voters, registered voters, and only about 33 million come out to vote, that doesn't speak well of all of us. INEC, the political parties, the civil society groups, we all need to join INEC so that we can motivate more people to create that inclusiveness that allows them own the government that will come out at the end of the day as victorious. That government must be seen to be popular. We don't want people winning with such close votes.
Well, finally, before we go, let's talk about insecurity. What strategy does your party have in place to tackle insecurity if it wins the presidency or the presidential election in 2023?
I think the presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has talked about improving the technological equipment and platforms of the military and the armed forces, paying more attention to recruitment of quality personnel, and making sure that they're on top of the game and engaging many more volunteer groups and many more platforms that will improve security. To a large extent, there's a massive improvement over the last 6 months in terms of fighting insecurity in the country. And President Buhari has created that platform. The Air Force has joined the Army in the demolition of some of those camps and complete deconstruction of the whole structure of the bandits and the insurgents. And gradually we're seeing, I even think that by the time Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is getting into power, security will be much more stable than it is even now, because we're on the road to getting it done. The last time that we had, even the small kidnappings you still find, Lagos, Ibadan, Abuja, Kaduna, Birnin-Gwari, they have reduced drastically. I don't know the last time anybody was kidnapped on the Abuja-Kaduna road, at least not as the way it used to be. And you'll be surprised. I think that I also support the efforts of all the small regional governments, Amotekun, all these groups, vigilantes, everywhere that are doing a lot of work to make sure that the ungoverned areas, all those forests, Asiwaju talks about forest rangers that will be increased. All the forest rangers and all the ungoverned spaces in the forest will be properly brought under check and put signals.
Thank you very much,
on them so that satellites
Danladi
can scan all those areas.
Thank you very much, Malam Danladi Bako, for coming on the program today. Co-Director of Strategic Communication of the All Progressives Congress, APC Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you very much for being a part of Politics Tonight.
Thank you very much, Jumoke, and I think so far so good. You guys started a new dimension with your political coverage by creating this program, and I think it will go far. Just remain focused, and I think you have a good team around you. I strongly believe that Politics Tonight will make huge impact as we move along. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Malam. Thank you so much. All right.